Neck-throughs, guitars, they're like a guy that you won't have a beer with you.
I want to hear what's pushing the notes.
Freddie King and B.B. King, Albert King, and let's not forget Burger King.
I don't want to blow my knuckle out.
Stainless steel is the work of the devil.
These go to 11.
From the East Amplification Tone Labs in Baltimore, Maryland, it's the Amps and Axes Show. With your hosts, Jeff the Godfather of Low Wattage Amps Bober and Mick Marcelino.
Well, good day to you, Mr. Marcelino.
Oh, it's reversed. Good day to you, Mr. Bober.
Ah, see, I gotcha. I gotcha.
Hey, man.
Hey, man.
Things are looking up.
Am I laying on the ground, really?
Well, you know how it is.
Yeah.
Look, you got a monitor now.
I do.
Yeah, you can see.
I can see what we're saying.
It's just
awesome.
coming out there in little lines.
There you go.
So we got to thank the fans, man. Yes, you guys are kicking it out of the ballpark, man. It's really nice of you.
Awesome.
And you're telling everybody, look, this is the way it perpetuates. You got to tell your friends, turn them on.
That's right.
You know, because this is how it is, and we're trying to do some things here, and we're working on some ideas, and we need these extra downloads.
Yes.
You know, we need them.
We need people with ears.
Yeah. So tell your friends, man. Pass it along. Friends, loved ones, whoever.
Right.
Yeah.
Whoever you think might benefit.
Exactly.
You know what? Tell everybody and let them worry about benefiting or not. Just tell everybody.
Yeah. Don't forget to go to ampsandaccesscast.com.
Right.
All of our social media. Our Amazon banners out there. Click through that thing. Buy stuff. We love you for that.
That's right.
You know, because
So
it
does
keeps
Amazon.
it keeps the lights on.
Right.
You
for
know?
Sure.
And literally.
We have one little light bulb in the corner. And
Yes, we do.
It's still on.
It's like that one in the firehouse. It's 100 years old, still burning.
Still burning.
Thinking to myself, somebody's lying about that. But anyway.
I don't know.
Yeah, you know. But, yeah, dude, you go out there and make sure you go to iTunes, too, and give us 5 stars.
Yes.
We
hate
us, love us, 5 stars, man.
Do it passionately.
Yeah.
Go all the way.
Yeah.
Like life. Just go all the way.
Go big.
That's it.
Yeah, exactly.
For sure.
So, you know, our good buddy Wino, right?
Wino.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Man, I had no idea the guy was from Maryland. That's so cool. First off, that was really cool.
It was.
And, but yeah, what a great guy. And if you haven't heard that episode, go back and check it out. That's a story, man, that, you know, he worked where to where he is. You know, a lot of work, a lot of rough days, I'm sure.
And we had the privilege to listening to some clips of some of the stuff that's coming up on the new release.
Holy crap, is that good?
And it's, it's really good and interesting covers on there. I was really impressed
Deep,
by the covers.
too.
Yeah, the deep cuts. I think we call them deep cuts.
We got to make sure that I'll try to make sure I stay on top of it to when that thing releases, because it's going to be a while before it releases. I think he said February. So once it does, I'll make sure we put a link out there and everything so we can, turn our listeners onto it, because it's good.
Cool, man. There's a deep mountain cut on there.
Yeah, it's heavy, but it's good.
It's cool.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So cool. Good on him too, man.
Frank's getting some damn good guitar tones.
Oh yeah, Jesus, my God. Yeah, it was good stuff.
Yeah.
Hey,
totally.
Do you want to do your thing, or do you want me to talk about my thing? What do you want?
No, I first want to thank our friend from up north.
Oh, what is wrong with me? It's Mr. Jason Sedita.
And he gives us the
quick lick.
There you go.
Boy, this is completely backwards.
Now you can go.
Okay. Holy crap! What's going on? We're in the other universe or something. Hey,
Bizarro.
So here's the thing. I had today is Wednesday. You know, we always do the show on Wednesday. We release it on Saturday. Yeah.
That's good for me to know.
I know. Yeah, we do this because I need a couple days to edit this thing usually.
For sure.
And it's not really to take parts out. It's just usually to put it together.
Right.
So anyway, I my son has shown an interest in becoming an audio engineer.
Nice.
So we have a great school here in Maryland, Sheffield.
Sheffield, yes.
And
Vance's place.
Yes, and I got to meet with Josh and Mr. Drew Mazurek.
Oh, cool.
Drew gave me a tour. I asked him, I said, look, my son wants to come by. This is what he's interested in. Can you show us? And he was like, absolutely, man. So he took an hour out of his time, so I got to thank Drew, and I got to thank Josh for letting him do that.
Nice.
And, we went through and we saw some stuff, but Drew had some very interesting insights that I don't know if he covered it when we were talking to him or not, but it was very interesting, and I think it's just because a matter of time has gone by that he's now seen some things that he has some concern with. And one of the things, well, there was a couple, but one of the things is that he's noticing that younger musicians are they're not giving their all. He says they get very distracted because they're, heavily involved with their cell phones and the social media thing and all that. Mm-hmm. And he goes, and they keep looking at him. Now, this is not all of them, so don't. This is not a blanketed statement, but he's noticing more of it. That they think it's just magic and that he can fix it in the mix.
Oh God!
So they're giving it some of them are giving it a half-hearted try,
mm-hmm.
and then they're like, can you fix that?
Can you make that good?
Yeah. So and he's talking about like time aligning and
mm-hmm.
and things like that. The other side of it was, and this is, I'm going to come around on this with the point.
Okay.
He said one of the things that he teaches that he feels like is disappearing, and he's very concerned with it, is the use of real instruments. He said when these kids come in,
instruments,
he goes, they have no clue that, he says some of these guys actually have the software and they've actually done some recording, but they don't know how to mic a drum set because they've never used a drum set. I
can see that.
They use drum software.
Yeah, and I can see that.
Yeah. Guitar amps.
Yeah.
They're not using guitar amps. They're using emulated
those
stuff.
are the kind of things they teach there.
Yes. Well, he makes a huge point of teaching that.
Right.
Now, the one thing that he said was, he goes, I fell victim to this when I first got into the digital world. Because he said in our interview that we had with him that he fought it tooth and nail. And it wasn't until 2000, 2001, somewhere around there, that he really started to embrace it.
Mm-hmm.
He said that he saw a dip in his quality of recordings because he was letting the computer kind of do the work. So he has now figured out, he has not figured out, but he has now kind of reset himself, he said, to where, no, that he knows that you got to still have this art, and I'm doing quotes because it is an art, but it's, it's kind of like this different art, to be able to capture this sound in such a way that it conveys that the way the artist wants to convey it. And he said that he puts a huge emphasis on how to mic a drum set, how to mic a guitar amplifier, how to mic a Hammond B3, which they have at Sheffield, a Rhodes, which they have, a grand piano, things like that, because those things in a lot of recordings today are not real. They're coming out of a generated, emulated thing.
Yeah.
And he said that is taking away from the actual talent, per se, as being a good sound engineer or recording engineer, to be able to understand how to, when the guy comes in with a champ and he's got a rat in front of it, how to make that thing sound like, a 50-foot amplifier, right?
Right.
And he said that is the dying art. And he said he is teaching that 100% to make sure that piece of it, because they teach both sides, right? They teach the digital side,
right,
and they teach, this other side that really is becoming, it's like anything that used to happen that doesn't happen anymore. Well, that's what,
I mean, you have to teach the current technology, but
absolutely.
You also, it's really great that they are not forgetting the other pieces of the art and experience that go with making a really good recording. You know, I mean, if you have the opportunity to record a real drum kit and say like a real grand piano, and real amplifiers, and this guy gets a great tone, like you were saying, out of his Champ and Rat, but you have to make that big in the recording. It's great that they're teaching people how to do that, as opposed to the engineer saying, well, that's just the tiny amp. We can't make it sound big. We'll just use one of our
emulators,
models, or or profiles.
Here's a Kemper, or here's Axe Effects. Yeah,
right.
It's when he said it, my brain started. It was just like, and basically, we do two things here with this, and not even knowing it, we've done two things. We bring a lot of information to you about artists and manufacturers that you probably would never ever hear, right? Because they usually get the generic 20-minute interview and it's about the latest thing they're doing. We try to deep dive into their whole history. The other piece of it is that we also tried to make sure that piece, that moving of the real air, that type of thing, doesn't get lost, because that's important. But the one thing that I guess we've kind of maybe a little bit touched, but not too much, learn your craft. Don't half-ass it, is what we're trying to say, because the engineer, if you start relying on a computer or another person to do your parts, it's going to sound like crap. I mean, this is what we're hearing on the radio.
You're not in full control of it.
No,
and if you're relying on something else, you are not in total control of what you're doing.
So your talent, if there is any on that sense, it's gone. Mm-hmm. You're giving those rights away. You're just saying, here.
You just simply know how to operate it as well as anybody else that got familiar with it knows how to operate it. It's the above and beyond that really makes the difference. And I guess you probably have to look at it as like, if there's something to learn, don't say, "Oh, I don't really need to know that." Learn it.
Yeah.
Learn it. You can never learn too much.
No, and there's quite a few musicians out there that are of a very high caliber that we've had fortunate to talk to. Nicky Morock. He's without a doubt. That is the top of the echelon as guitar players go. That is Steve Lukather territory. Right. He's at the top of that chain, and let me tell you, he didn't get there because he just mailed it in. That's a cat that can sight read. He knows full music theory, and those things. I've heard this too. Knowing those things is not a bad thing. It's not. No. It's not. It doesn't make you some John Petrucci kind of guitar player. It just makes you know the map. You get freedom from that.
It just gives you more information to work with.
Yeah.
If you know the theory behind something, you may be able to take it somewhere that someone that doesn't know that theory would think to take it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what really makes like a well-written, well-constructed song and things like that. It's knowing, most of the time anyway, it's knowing the music theory behind it and knowing what's going to work, and putting that in play in such a way that it makes it yours and unique and unusual, and it may be something that somebody else that didn't have all that knowledge wouldn't have thought of, and that makes yours just better because of the knowledge that you can never have too much knowledge, man.
Go back in our episode log and look at some of these guys, like your Pete Thorns and the Carl Verheins and just go through that list of people that we've talked to that are you go, I don't know who that is. These guys are literally the most sought after guys out there.
Right.
They have got work coming. They're probably hanging up the phone telling the guy, "I'm sorry, I can't do the
They're
gig."
all first call guys.
Yeah. And there's a reason behind it, because they have this knowledge. It's not that they're the hot shot guitar player. They
can very well be.
They can be, but it's that they have. They don't look at obstacles. They look at it as, well, okay, no problem, man. I can do that because they have the knowledge in there.
Well, and it's the knowledge and the experience.
And the woodshedding.
and the woodshedding.
Yeah.
And, if somebody calls, they, if someone's making a call for a guitar player, they may think that the most important thing, if they're calling somebody into the studio to cut some tracks for somebody that's in the recording, they may think the most important thing is for this guy to be able to sight read, okay?
Mm-hmm.
You could show up on the job and never need to sight read.
Oh, no.
But you may get the call because you were one of the guys that they thought it was like, okay, well, this guy can sight read, so, he can play anything. If we have to throw some sheet music in front of him, he can play it, Now,
don't lie, because there may be a day that they're going to throw sheet
right.
music in front of you, and that would be a bad day.
Yeah.
So you want to make sure that you do it, but it's that extra piece, and it doesn't say it. You can love the most basic music out there, and I mean basic, as in anything simplified rock and roll.
Mm-hmm.
But having that knowledge just kind of puts you above the average.
I think it
guitarist.
puts you just in a slightly different echelon.
Yeah.
And speaking of basic music, I was just going through something.
If we have to do that title.
If we have to, let's just say good old rock and roll.
Yeah, let me tell you something about basic, kids. When you try to do it, sometimes you're like, this is the most difficult thing on the planet.
AC/DC?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's like a weird thing that you have to have.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's not easy to make 3 chords sound as good as they do. There's a certain thing. There's a certain thing you got to have to do that. But anyway, basic good old rock and roll.
Yeah.
Came out of people, years ago, like Bad Company. Which was a kind of a super group.
Free
for its day. Yeah.
Well, Free. Free was.
Yeah. So I'm reading this article on Rich Robinson, and I had no idea that he was out taking Mick Ralph's place in Bad Company.
Whoa.
Yeah. Mick said, I don't want to tour.
Now, is he playing next to Howard Leese?
In Bad Company?
Yeah, because Howard Leese was the other guitar player in Bad Company. So the
Howard Leese was in Heart.
And he's gone. He's been gone for like 15 years or so. That's who he joined with, Paul Rogers.
Oh, okay. So maybe he's next to.
Oh, so he doesn't mention Howard in it.
No, he doesn't.
Okay.
He doesn't. He does mention Paul Rogers as one of the best vocalists out there.
Paul Rogers is a
but he took
defies physics.
He took Mick Ralph's place.
Wow!
And as soon as they're done, then he goes out on his own solo tour. But he was
now. Here's the thing:
with Bad Company for a while.
I don't want to badmouth Mick.
Okay,
but I've seen some. I've seen some shows with them, and I've seen him stop in the middle of the songs and start tuning.
Mick Ralph's?
Yeah, and Howard was, of course, in the band.
Mm-hmm.
It's been, I think he's been like 10 years in that gig. Paul Rogers and Bad Company combined.
Okay,
doing both sides, and I would see him. He was doing some not so professional things on stage, and I don't know if that was just out of.
I don't know. Maybe it's just become a little more difficult for him to execute.
Yeah.
On stage and be on tour. He said, "Yeah, I don't have it in me to go out on tour anymore."
One of the things that we were talking today about was front of house sound, front of house guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Drew said that's an acquired lifestyle. You have to have that kind of thing in you.
Oh yeah,
and it's the same thing with musicians. If the road is rough, and no matter what level you are too,
mm-hmm.
It's just a rough and it's an endurance race, and you got to be able to be up for the task,
right?
And you're going city to city, and if you're meeting people, there's a lot of handshaking. You get the pneumonia,
right?
And
I mean, I don't care. I don't care if you're the Stones, man. I don't care how pampered you are. It is still a daily endurance race.
It's a grind.
It is.
Yeah, and it's a tough grind.
Yeah.
I can understand that when you start getting up there in your late 50s, early 60s, late 60s, that's got to be wearing. Yeah, it's got to be a wear and tear on the body, man. And at some point, they just kind of go, I'm kind of done.
Yeah.
And what's his name? The bass player for AC/DC, and I forgot his name. I should be shot.
Oh, geez.
You got yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember his name.
I'll think of it here.
I don't remember.
Anyway, he's calling it this year. It's his last thing, so it's
just
going to be Angus.
Angus.
So I don't know if he's going to stick with it or not, but it's kind of weird.
He should just call it Angus DC.
Something.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's
it's tough, man. It's and it's great, and not everybody can do it. It's not like you can go to school to be an accountant and then you can be an accountant.
Yeah,
there's plenty of job openings for accountants. Not everybody gets to go tour and continue to do that, as a career and as part of their lifestyle. So if you're fortunate enough, it's wonderful because you are fortunate enough. But don't anybody think it ain't tough.
No, it would. That would be a lie.
Be fooling yourself.
Exactly. It's Cliff Williams.
Cliff Williams.
I totally forgot.
I never remembered that.
Well, Phil Rudd was the drummer. Mm-hmm. Who's probably going to do some serious time for trying to get two people off. Which that story kind of went away, but he's not in the band because of that reason. And then poor Malcolm, who has...
they probably wouldn't let him leave the country or something.
Not Australia. Yeah. He's not getting out of there.
Right.
But Malcolm is... you got dementia.
Dementia. That's...
I saw some pictures. He actually has a handler and stuff. It just...
Wow.
You don't want to see people... You don't want to see people end like that, It's just not...
Wow.
Look, I mean... life is sometimes just the most cruel thing on the planet. But, it's what happens. And
but
if we could ever figure it out, huh?
It ain't not worth living. So,
no.
Have fun and do it all that you can.
Yeah.
Every day. And our, it brings us to our guest of the day who does not have dementia and, who's probably got a couple of years on Malcolm.
Yeah.
And, He's still out there doing it, and he's been doing it for quite a while.
When I saw this style of music, I didn't realize that you were such a fan of jazz.
Well, more definitely jazz, somewhat, but more the fusion side of it.
Yes, I come in and I hear some of the craziest stuff when Jeff's. I don't even know what you're listening to.
I don't know
sometimes, but I hear it and I go, what in the world is that? But
it's probably like Return to Forever or
you have some very
Weather Report.
Yeah, and I hear it and I go, well, that's interesting.
Which our guest was big at that time as well. He was in that genre. He was up there with the Weather Reports and the Return to Forevers and the Mahavishnu McLaughlin thing.
Yes.
So nobody got nothing on our guest here when it comes to fusion stuff, and happy to have him on the show today. And just talk about where he came from, man, because he's been doing it a long time. So we're gonna take a break, and we're gonna talk to what has been listed as the Godfather of Fusion.
Oh, look at that,
Mr. Larry Coryell.
Hi, this is Wino from The Obsessed, and you're listening to Amps and Axes.
All right, and as promised, we are back with our guest of the week, the one and only Mr. Larry Coryell. Larry, how are you?
I'm excellent. Thank you very much. Is this Mick?
No, this is Jeff.
Jeff.
And I'm Mick.
That's Mick.
We've been friends for years.
Your voice is higher than Jeff's. Got it.
There you go.
Mine has the nasally drone.
I have the little baritone.
I'm very familiar with nasally drones throughout the years.
Okay, we won't go there, but hi, Larry. Thanks for taking the time, man. Thanks for taking the time. We really do appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. I'm here at the home of my wonderful younger brother and his wonderful wife, who have opened up their home to me. I'm I'm up here to continue recovering from an illness that I recently suffered from due to a complication from surgery. And I'm getting stronger every day, and I'm starting finally to play again.
And how long have you not been playing?
The operation, the disaster was June 2nd.
Oh, okay.
But I've been, now for the last 3 weeks, I've been playing a little bit, mostly nylon string. I can't use a pick yet. It just falls out of my hand.
Whoa.
But, you know, you don't need a pick if you want to make music. You just use your skills that pertain to pure music, and so far it's working.
Awesome.
And we can turn him on to our good buddy Vinny over there at V-Picks, because they make those 4mm thick picks, and they kind of stick to your hand. So that way,
they're very thick.
Yeah, so you don't have to use that tight grip. You can use it, and they're made out of acrylic, so they stick to your fingers.
It's kind of cool.
No kidding.
Yeah. We'll turn you onto it before we get out of here.
Yeah, we'll put you and Vinny together.
Yeah,
that'd be cool.
Yeah.
Anybody named Vinny, I have a predilection for.
There you go.
You just can't say a nicer name in all of the world than, hey, Vinny.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I think, hey, Larry, that's good too. You know.
Yeah.
Well, with Vinny though, it falls off the back of a truck. You see.
Oh, too funny, man. Too funny.
We have to give the image its due.
Exactly. Well, we're going to give you some due for a while here, my friend, and we're gonna go where I like to take our guests. We're going to hop into the Wayback Machine and find out where Mr. Larry Coryell was born and raised, and what got you into this wonderful world of music, man. So give us a little history.
Well, I was born in Galveston, Texas in 1943.
Wow.
And at the age of 7, our little family moved to Washington State. Into a very remote area of southeastern Washington, because where Mr. Coryell, our father, our dad, was going to work was a radioactive area where they were making plutonium for, I guess, atomic bombs.
Ooh. Wow.
Well, it was a gig, you know.
Not something you hear every day.
But it was a gig.
Yeah.
You know? And it was a very provincial place, and most of the people who lived in that pocket of that southeast corner of Washington State were almost uneducated and had very little sophisticated knowledge of culture. But all the scientists, including Gene Coryell, who were shipped up there to do this dangerous work, it was, you know, they had to go way out into the boondocks to make the plutonium because of the danger of radiation. All the people that our dad worked with were like him, scientists, engineers, very educated people. So the little town that we lived in, it was called Richland, Washington, had a goodly number of people who were aware and pretty smart and pretty knowledgeable about the world. So their kids were like that also. So I grew up with a lot of sharp people.
Cool. It's so funny. You're in a depressed area, yet all the people that you grow up with, because of the industry, are of your caliber. You know, which is I guess to be expected and cool. But yeah, you're right. They probably had to put that stuff way out in the boonies.
Oh, you don't want to be
near that. They're still cleaning up of the mess. They don't manufacture the plutonium anymore.
Yeah. It's probably got a half shelf life of a billion years or something, you know.
Yeah, you understand. You understand. It's really a dodgy thing, but at that time, See, my brother, who's my host here, he was born in 1952. So he was born in what we called back then the atomic era. Mm-hmm. And it was just something that we took for granted, that our dads were doing something good for the country. You know, a lot of it was politically, it was very right wing anyway. Our dad was one of the few Democrats.
Wow.
And I really got all my politics from him. I voted Democratic in every election since '64. And but more than that, I believe in the principles that Democrats portend to embrace, even though they may not. I don't know. I really don't know what goes on behind the scenes. But it's none of my business. I'm just trying to think about the next chord in the next song.
Well, there you go, and that's what you're that's your forte. So that's what you're best at, and that's what you should concentrate most of your time on, I think. You know?
Well, yeah. Now that I'm about, I'd say 80% back from the devastating physical consequences of the operation, I'm staying with my brother and his wife. And my brother is also a guitarist.
Oh, wow.
And it's just like my own home. I walk in the door and I'm surrounded by guitars. They are everywhere.
Nice.
They're all good, and most of them are all good, and they're all in tune. and I have one or two instruction books. And he has them lying around the house. And I was looking at one of my old instruction books today and started playing some of the ideas, and I thought to myself, this is actually something I need to do. Written out some 2-bar phrases on the G minor jazz scale, and I started getting some other ideas, just messing around with these 2-bar phrases that I had written. You know, in jazz, because it's so much like science in a way, you have to keep your mind moving all the time.
Wow, that is so cool when you go back and learn from yourself.
Yeah,
well, it kind of.
It's shocking.
A lot of times I go back and look at one of my books and I say to myself, "What was I thinking? This is." I think that would. I guess I needed the money.
I think that would happen to most people more times than not. The more experience you get, you go back. You know, you look back a decade or two and you go, "What was I thinking?" You know. But if you can actually go back and learn from yourself, man, that's cool.
Well, the other thing is this. I was really sick. You know, complications from surgery can be very bad, especially it was a sinus surgery. So I really had a lot of time to think. And during the first, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks where I was in the hospital, it was rough. When I finally got back home, well, I had to go back to the hospital after I'd been home for a while. It's so involved. Let me make a long story short. I came to believe that music is nothing more, and music's my whole life, it's nothing more than a combination of sound and silence.
Wow, that's pretty damn profound.
And if I start, it's not my idea. It's one of my mentors many years ago when I was in college. He told me this, and somehow the operation slowed my brain down enough so I could think of some stuff that I had forgotten. And it became very important to me because, you know, I have a reputation for playing a lot of notes. Miles Davis jokingly would refer to me as a card-carrying member of Notes Anonymous.
Were you getting paid by the note? Is that?
No, I never got that law passed.
Right.
Well, if you did, Alan Holdsworth would be a trillionaire.
I'd be a very poor man.
Well, Alan Holdsworth is.
Yeah, I know.
There's nobody like him. He's the Coltrane of the guitar.
Let me tell you, I saw him one time, and I went, "Oh my God!" Like it's endless. I just couldn't even believe it. I was like, I was tired watching him.
Yeah, I tell you that Larry, you know, when I became aware of Larry was in the golden age of fusion, you know, like I was telling you before, you know, Return to Forever and
Headhunters.
Oh, wow, Headhunters, yeah.
Jeff Lorber.
Oh, yeah, Oblivion Express, right?
All those bands.
Yeah, and you know, I really fell in love with that style of guitar, you know, and honestly, probably the first one that I heard was probably Dimiola, you know, because I think I fell into Return to Forever first, and then Weather Report, and you know all that, which you know was not very guitar heavy at all, but yeah, I mean it's some of my favorite guitar, and Larry was right there in the midst of it, you know.
You know, he just sent me a check.
Who did?
Al.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because a lot of people, a lot of my friends and fans know that, you know, when you're knocked out for 2 months, you don't work.
Oh, wow.
And he sent me a check.
Wow, that is awesome.
Very generous check.
Wow, because he's been out doing his solo thing. Well, not solo, but you know, with his band.
I saw him and Steve Vai the other day.
Oh, wow.
On a video playing together.
Nice.
That was crazy.
Wow.
Because they were doing these runs simultaneously together, you know, just dead on. And you know Steve Vai.
Mm-hmm.
That guy.
Yeah, I like Steve.
He can like phrase, you know, he can like do all these harmonies and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I was watching it and I'm like, this timing was so crazy. I'm like, how in the world how is he not missing? You know what I mean?
Right.
And Al's just doing his stuff. Right? And Steve's there, and then he's just doing all this other stuff, and he's looking over at Al, and I'm going, he's got to miss here in a minute. And it didn't even,
you know,
I
like him. I like them both, but you know, if I had to pick a preferred style for me, it would be Dimiola.
Yeah.
You know,
well, Vai is out there.
The whole fusion thing is just real near and dear to me.
Vai is Frank Zappa's prodigy. You know what I mean? Right. But he was nailing it. And I was like, man, it's like, you know, can't this guy play?
Yeah. Yeah,
I really loved Frank.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was another one that was like its own. That was his own style. I don't even know what you would call it.
Well, we're the same generation. I mean, Frank came up, and he's heard all this really, to him, and I kind of agree with the mediocre pop music around him.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, "I've got to fight this somehow." So he went into satire. 200 Motels or whatever it was.
Yeah.
But he was our Stravinsky.
Yeah.
You're listening to his totally straight orchestral compositions. He's our Stan Kenton, our Stravinsky.
Yeah, they were, you know, I mean, most people write and play songs. You're right, I think, in that case, to use the word compositions.
Yeah,
you know,
it's amazing.
Yeah, it's so much more involved and intricate and thought out and constructed, and you know, properly, you know, musically properly done.
Yes,
you know.
Now here, real quick, I got a Frank Zappa story.
Okay,
so any story I can share, I will. So Frank Zappa spent a small period of time in Edgewood, Maryland.
Okay,
right?
Really?
Yes.
Yeah.
He went to school there. My old English teacher was best friends with him. They went to school together, right? So he was a huge Zappa fan. Anytime Frank was near, Ken would hang out with him, right? So Ken knew I was really in guitar. He said, "You got to check out this guy, Frank Zappa." And this was 9th grade, right? I was Judas Priest and Iron Maiden. I had no idea who this guy was.
Yeah, some of Frank's favorites.
So exactly. So he gave me Joe's Garage. And he said, "Here, you got to listen to this album." He goes, "Don't play it in front of your parents because it's filthy." I said, "Okay," right? This is my high school English teacher. Greatest guy ever, right? And I played this thing, and I was like, I couldn't understand how they could play it. Yeah. I was like, there's no time signature. It's like literally like, you know, a play, but you have to hit your points. And I was like, how do they do this? He goes, "Don't ask me." He goes, I meet Frank, we have a beer, it's it.
It just seems freeform, but everybody's there.
And it's precise.
Point. Yeah, it's precise. Yeah.
It was amazing. But that was my Frank Zappa story.
Cool.
And when I heard it, I was like, this is another plane. I don't even know how.
They just put up a statue of him a few years ago around here, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Really?
And I think Zappa played. I think Dweezil played.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was when he was first getting Play Zappa together, and I had heard it, and I went, I have a friend's band who does Frank stuff better, but he's gotten a whole lot better doing doing Frank.
Where
stuff.
is the statue?
I'm going to have to look this up.
Let me see what I can find.
Okay, you see what you can find when I go, because I want to go back to Larry's beginnings, because it's funny you played guitar. Your dad was a scientist.
Well, we called him a chemical engineer. He was very humble. He didn't want to, brag about stuff like that. But it's true, he was a scientist.
Okay, but musically inclined or not?
No, but he wasn't my biological father. My biological father was a musician who I never knew.
Wow.
But my dad, Gene Coryell, he was always dad to me. I never called him a stepdad. He would come to see me when I was in college and I started playing in bands. I was a little bit pleasantly surprised that he was really encouraging me to play jazz.
Huh.
And I was going to the University of Washington, maybe my second year, maybe my third, I'm not sure. He came up and he saw me play with a pretty good jazz ensemble. We were playing some of the more popular jazz compositions from the late 50s, early 60s, like Sacco Woe by Cannonball Adderley, like Tonk by Ray Bryant. I actually played a little bit of piano in that band besides guitar, but the point was, he comes and he sees me play, and we do the finale, which is Sacco Woe. We did Cannonball's arrangement. It's just a blues. It's real simple, but it has a lot of impact. Mm-hmm. And I came off stage, and he looked at me, and he looked around. He said, "All these black people love what you're doing." He had never really been in that world.
Wow.
But he knew that I had it in my DNA. The DNA of a jazz player.
That's pretty awesome.
And he encouraged me, and I didn't understand why, but I was really glad. He said, "You got to keep doing this."
Now, this was your stepdad?
Yeah, technically, but to me, he was dad.
Sure.
I mean, I'm here at home with my brother, and he's dad. We talked about dad this morning.
So that was my next question. Do you share the same dad with your brother?
And we have the same mother.
Oh, the same mother. Okay.
Yeah, and we also talked about our mom. And his wife is a wonderful woman. His wife is wonderful, and they have opened up their home for me.
That's very.
I really wanted to get away from leave my wife at home to work on her own stuff, because my wife down in Orlando has been just being a nurse to me for the last 2 months, and she just got worn out. She got totally stressed out.
Wow.
And now that I no longer need 24-hour care, I can be up here with my family, surrounded by guitars, and we're doing our thing, and we're going to go out to dinner after this interview, and we're going to hang out and just be a family.
Awesome.
Yeah, man, that's cool.
That is great. So you and your brother play guitar. When did you like start playing guitar? I assume that you eventually started playing guitar with other people and maybe put a band together and things like that.
Yeah, I did that in end of junior high, beginning of high school.
Ah. And were you into the jazz thing really heavy then?
No, I didn't even know it. I didn't know what it was. I mean, it was Elvis and Buddy Holly, and and especially in that rural southeastern pocket of those state of Washington, there was a lot of shit-kicking music. But some of it was good. Some of it, some of the guitar players on those records that they played on the radio could really play. And it wasn't until years later that I realized that it was Chet Atkins playing all those solos behind those country people.
Yeah, no slouch there. I mean, we have this conversation all the time. There's so many musicians that were behind the scenes back in the day that, I mean, they're finally starting to get recognition now, but there were so many of them that were responsible for so much of the music that was out there. And they were just unbelievable musicians that could just go in and, look at a chart and play and make a hit. And, it's next, and they do it again, and they do it again, and they're all finally getting recognition. They're making movies about them now. And it's awesome.
It's exactly what happened, but that's because of the technology and copying. That's the business is destroyed.
Yeah.
Young players today can, because it's so easy to record, they can make a great record on their iPhone, and nobody will buy it.
Yeah.
That is the saddest part of that. I mean, it's not so much the technology, which killed a lot of studios, but there still are studios that are doing okay. If people want actually... Good.
Musicians are hams, man. Any opportunity that they could get their music. Everybody is recording all the time. Mm-hmm. I just made 2 fantastic records.
Oh, nice.
That were paid for by somebody else. I would never lay out my own money.
And not nowadays. Wow.
Yeah, the only way you can make money that I have discovered, and I hope there's more to it than this, is you just got to go out and play live.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You got to go out and play live and charge more.
And here's the side. See, it's like this catch-22 thing, because you got to go out and play live, but the clubs that allow live bands is becoming harder and harder to find.
Well,
that scene, for especially in Baltimore. Baltimore's really,
Well,
we've had it go up and down, but it's
some go, but some start up, and
exactly. It's kind of ebb and flow there.
Yeah.
Do you know who Lee Pearson is?
No.
He's from Baltimore. I think was born into the ministry, or his dad was a minister, or he's a minister. He plays with Sting and Chris Bodie.
Oh, okay.
And I put him on.
There you go.
I made a record earlier this year, and he was the drummer. And I'd never heard anybody play the drums like that in my life.
Really?
And I'm glad we made that record.
Wow.
And I think somehow that record will be able to earn some success. I don't know how exactly, but it was basically, we decided to focus on my guitar playing and his drumming, and just build the project around that. And I think it worked.
Nice. Yeah,
but he's in Baltimore.
For you to say that you never heard anybody play drums like that, I mean, you've been doing this a minute, man. Wow.
If you just Google any YouTube stuff of Chris Bodie or Sting. Mm-hmm. When we were together in Indonesia earlier this year, it might have been January or February or March, I can't remember exactly. In this Chris Bodie Sting show, they gave him a 30-minute. Every night they gave him a 30-minute unaccompanied drum solo.
Good God!
Oh my God!
The point is, there's so much talent in Baltimore, man.
There truly is. Between the Baltimore, Annapolis, and D.C., Northern Virginia area, there's so many people.
Yeah, there's a lot of people.
Yeah,
and talking about that statue of Frank.
It's on East. It's a large bust on Eastern Avenue.
Yeah, it has something to do with the Pratt Library.
Okay.
Yeah.
In Baltimore?
Yeah, in Baltimore.
I love that town, man. You know who Cyrus Chestnut is?
I know the name. Why does that
greatest jazz piano players in the world. I discovered him in Baltimore.
Yeah.
Now
hired him immediately.
Really?
Oh, he's one of the greatest piano players in the world.
Wow.
Gary Bartz.
Mm-hmm.
One of the greatest horn players. I mean, for some crazy reason, the Baltimore, Washington area is like a fertile farmland for development of African American music talent, whether the players are black or white. Mm-hmm. People raised in that environment, they get it, they understand what's hip. As soon as they get old enough to hold an instrument, they enjoy practicing, and they listen to music. Usually if their parents play the records and stuff, it's a great thing.
Yeah, it really
we
is.
have created this original art form called jazz in the United States. Mm-hmm. And it's still very popular in Asia and Europe, although... And there are pockets of popularity. I mean, recently, somebody, I don't know who it was, but they organized a thing on the White House lawn, and Chick Corea was there, John McLaughlin was there, other really good players were there. That gives me hope.
Nice.
Yeah. But I have to tell you, again, based on what my early mentor in college told me, that music can be reduced to the elements of sound and silence, a combination thereof. Mm-hmm. I decided to take some ideas from literature and write long, extended works based on the stories. The first one was War and Peace.
Wow.
And I wrote an opera, but it had jazz interludes in it. And the world premiere was in Slovenia, with apologies to Donald Trump's wives. He seems to prefer Slovenian women. That's okay with me. I don't have a position on that. But when I was in Slovenia and we were preparing for the world premiere in 2014, what I did see was something very interesting. There was a higher percentage of the population that was exceptionally gifted in music than normal.
In Slovenia, wow.
Yes.
Was it classical based?
All of it. The Slovenian folk music, some pop stuff. There was one guitar player there named Igor. He could play anything. He could play just like Django Reinhardt or Al Di Meola.
Wow.
Turned around and then he turned around and played what I had written for him.
Huh.
Man.
Wow.
And he had just come back from India.
Huh.
He knows that all of us guys from our generation, if we had a chance, we would go to India because we knew that there was more we could learn by just putting ourselves in that environment. Mm-hmm. Well, and I hit India in 1982, I believe. And not a moment too soon, man. I really needed... It wasn't the music so much. It was the environment. Just the vibe of a country like that with thousands and thousands of years of successful civilization. I mean, they've been working on their recipes for thousands of years. No wonder that when you go and have curry or something, it's so good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, their use of spices is just fantastic.
Everything.
Yeah.
Well, it's basically Hindu, right?
No, it's Hindu, it's Muslim, it's Christian, it's everything. It's a big mix, huge mix. Yeah. Everything's a big mix. That's why fusion will always be relevant.
Ah.
Nice. That's a good.
That's kind of cool.
That's a good perspective to put that in. Yeah,
I like that.
I mean, they're the first people I knew that discovered India were the Beatles.
Yeah.
I think we all identified with what they did, and we supported it, and somehow emulated it.
Yeah, or at least tried to understand it and respect it in the beginning, at least.
Well, Indian music is quite different from Western music. In Western music, we have what we know as harmony. Mm-hmm. There's no harmony in Indian music. It's just melody and rhythm.
Yeah, with very unique scales.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's the melody.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful. what George Harrison did and what the Beatles did with Maharishi. But I recently read the most recent biography of Frank Sinatra. And according to the biography, you have to take everything with a grain of salt, right? According to the biography, the Maharishi was full of shit. He just wanted the money and the fame.
Oh, wow.
And the guy who writing the biography, he was writing, it was the section about Mia Farrow. Ah. And he told this beautiful little story about she goes to the, what's it called, the ashram, the retreat. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And she gets settled in there. She's trying to get into the groove, the whole thing, and it just seems to her that the Maharishi is just full of shit, And the Beatles arrive about a week or so later, and they would bring their guitars to the dinner table. And they were still the four lovable lads from Liverpool. They would bring their guitars to the dinner table, and they would sing and play, and everybody was entranced. And Mia Farrow comments so beautifully on this. And, they were in their 20s.
Oh, yeah.
And they were all blue-collar young men from, at that time, England was almost a third world country. It was difficult. Everything was rough. Now England is very strong economically because they've gotten rid of all their indigenous manufacturing, and they're just a banking center, and they're doing great. And there's a lot of good jazz musicians who are Brits, a lot of them. They're fantastic. Martin Taylor comes to mind. But the thing was, it was the magic of good music that emerged from this little episode in this biography of Sinatra. And Sinatra became aware of the Beatles right around that time, and he said, best song I've ever heard in my life is Something.
Wow.
And he said, I want to meet George Harrison, so they arranged it. He got to meet, and I wrote an arrangement of Something based on another friend of mine, Mike Maneri, the vibes player in New York. He did it first. He wrote this beautiful arrangement, and I thought, well, let me try one. So I did one, and it came out really nice. But initially, in the 60s, the jazz cats, who were usually very open to everything, I think they were threatened by the Beatles. And I would go to a jam session and say, let's play a Beatles tune, and they got ballistic.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, would I lie to you?
Well, I don't know.
I'm 73 years old, man. I have nothing to hide. I nearly died when I got sick.
Wow.
They said I was on the table at 2 occasions I was going to die.
Ooh. Man.
But that's neither here nor there, because the bottom line is I'm okay.
Right.
My family wants me to sue the doctor, which I'm not going to do, because I believe in forgiveness. That's why I wrote War and Peace, because that story, you know what that story is about? It is about unconditional forgiveness. That's the long and the short of all those thousands of pages. And I wrote that opera, War and Peace, in the hopes that, in the confident hopes that as long as it could be composed and out there as an entity to be performed, that the message would get through to people, that the whole thing Tolstoy is saying is you must develop unconditional forgiveness, or else the human race will be a lesser race than its potential.
I like that.
Oh, yeah.
I like that a lot.
Well, it's really something that's difficult to attain, especially during an election year, where the jokes about DT are fast and furious.
Yeah.
And, but we're a democracy. We have to have these things every 4 years. I've voted Democratic since '64. I'm just an automatic. Okay, I did it. Now let's next.
Next, yeah.
Well, it's like certain things, right? I always say this. Mm-hmm. Like if you're going down the road, and I tell my kids this because they're new drivers, mm-hmm. right? I tell them, look, if a guy cuts you off or whatever, don't take it personal. There's no need to always settle the hash with that person. You know what I mean? There's just no need to, because all you do is, you're just creating something that this guy doesn't know.
Right.
It isn't like, hey, I'm picking this guy and I'm going to cut him off. It's usually, hey, I'm in a hurry and I just need to, and I'm, right. whatever. The guy, most of the time, 90% of the time, it's not intentional.
Not the most careful, but not
exactly
intentioned.
Most of the time, especially today, people are walking around with blinders on and we're in a phone and we don't realize it. But do you have to settle the hash? Not all the time. And I think
because there really isn't one until you start it. At that point, it didn't exist unless you start it.
Exactly.
Right.
So it's sort of that same line. It's just like, hey, all right. Just roll with it, man.
Right.
It's just the way it is.
You did that, and that it is what it is.
Yeah.
Right.
Nobody died. Right. We're moving on.
Right.
Hey, Jim, you don't have to shoot that guy in the Chevy that I told you to shoot.
Okay, maybe just in the kneecap.
Yeah, just kneecap.
It's just a bad limp now.
My brother and I have a tradition. Whenever I come to Chicago, I can't remember when it started, but do you go to Chicago much?
No.
I've been one time.
Chicago is an incredible city. I mean, you hear about all the murders and the whole black area is far from here, and the 2,000 murders this year. There's nothing we can do about it,
right?
Because all these juvenile delinquents, they drive to Indiana where they can get guns. But we have a tradition in our family. Whenever Larry and Jim get together in Chicago, at least once, just once, we go to a mafioso restaurant called Gene and Giorgetti's.
Nice.
And this place has the best steaks in the world.
Oh, man.
Absolute best, and way overpriced. We don't care. We like the experience because it's like going into the world of Al Capone for about 45 hour and 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Well,
they all have that vibe,
You got to pay for atmosphere, man.
Yeah, they have the vibe. Their sentences are 4 or 5 words maximum.
That's beautiful.
And it's just a great experience.
And the place hasn't changed in 50 years, right?
I don't. Has Gene and Giorgetti's changed, Jim?
It's just got more expensive.
No, but the actual, the physical plant of the inside.
No, the interior is the same.
The interior is the same.
I guarantee it.
So, so here's how that works, right? Steak is the big number one thing on the menu, but the word duck is often heard.
Right.
That's funny, Nick. That's funny. That's funny. Oh,
well, you've got Italians in Baltimore.
Oh, yeah, they do.
Baltimore is a melting pot, man. And the Orioles are doing great this year.
Yeah, they slumped a little bit a couple of times, but they're pulling it back together.
Are they still in first place?
Give me a minute.
I don't know. They were a week or so ago, and then they had this losing streak, but they're pulling back now. I wish I had my boy Rob next to me. He would know.
I like the Orioles.
Yeah, we do too.
I always liked the football team. What are they called?
Well, we have the Ravens now. I mean,
Ravens. Yeah.
We used to have the Colts back in the day, but that's a sore subject that nobody wants to touch on. But
you gotta let that one go.
Absolutely. So I got to get back into a little like music talk or something here, but not. We love this. We absolutely.
Well, let me just tell
history.
you, War and Peace was a very big success.
Nice.
So I wrote another one.
Oh, really?
And I think, this is just me, I think it's better than War and Peace. It's another Tolstoy novel called Anna Karenina.
Heard of it.
Anna Karenina,
yes.
And it's about happiness, happy families and unhappy families. And it's really it's a real story, not historically real, but he's able to the way he creates the characters in the course of the novel. It's believable. You know somebody like that.
Ah.
And it's also in the midst of late 19th century Russia with all the pomp of the church and the kind of politics that were going on back then and the kind of ideas that had to do with agriculture. Tolstoy is simply like one of the greatest novelists to ever put pen to paper. And I have to rewrite Anna Karenina while I'm up here, because they're going to do the same people who did War and Peace. We did a second performance of War and Peace near Moscow a couple of years ago, and it went over really well. So we're going to do a world premiere of Anna Karenina next May, at the end of May. And the orchestra we're using is the orchestra that played behind Steve Vai when he performed in Russia.
Nice.
And Steve still hasn't stopped talking about how good that orchestra is.
Mm.
I think, if I'm not mistaken, that he's there right now with Generation X.
I wouldn't be surprised.
And I just saw some Instagram posts. They were doing some Led Zeppelin. And the cello player was out there and all. But so it may be the same cats. I don't know. Yeah.
Let me tell you my Led Zeppelin story.
Please
do.
It's 1969. I'm living in New York. We might have been in Rockland County by that time. My wife at the time, may she rest in peace, is pregnant with my first son, our first son. We had a manager, we had an agent, and they booked a thing at the near the Arthur Ashe tennis place.
Okay.
If you know where that is, near Shea Stadium and LaGuardia Airport.
Mm-hmm.
They had us open for Led Zeppelin, and I had an organ trio, guitar, organ, and drums. Wow. And we blew Led Zeppelin off the stage.
Wow.
Well, there you go.
We embarrassed them.
And this was what year?
1969.
Wow.
Maybe late September.
Wow.
The reviews were incredible. I mean, Led Zeppelin, they play great blues. These are great blues guys. Mm-hmm. They really have embraced it and they understand it. But we were playing jazz. And jazz is founded in blues.
Mm-hmm.
And especially because it was for all of our like-minded people in New York, they went nuts over what we did.
Wow.
That's pretty cool.
That is.
Yeah. And I'm not saying this to brag or make myself look good. I'm just telling you, you mentioned Led Zeppelin.
Mm-hmm.
My 28-year-old daughter, by my second marriage, recently sent me an email. Do you like Led Zeppelin? I said, yeah, they're okay.
We kicked their ass in
they're
69.
Okay. Yeah, that's right. They're okay. We kicked their ass. But yeah, they're okay.
And but I didn't want to go into the story.
They went home and learned some things, and they came back.
Hey, man.
That is okay.
Fast forward 45 years, and I'm doing a project with Lenny White and Victor Bailey.
Oh wow!
And they insist on doing Black Dog, and so we arranged it our own way, and it came out really nice.
Oh, that's nice.
We also did a nice arrangement. It was really hard to play because it was so tricky, of Manic Depression.
What, with Lenny?
With Lenny and Victor.
Wow.
And I'm still one of those people who, where and when it's necessary, I have to explain to people who are closed-minded how and why Hendrix was such a great musician. Most other people get it anyway.
So who do you have to explain it to?
Jazz Police.
Jazz Police. I like that.
Yeah, Jazz Police. Hendrix had the ability to play with just the pentatonic scale on the same level as a great jazz musician. And that is not my opinion, it's a fact.
Wow.
Just listen to the music.
I can agree with that.
Listen to my friend Stanley Jordan, the guitar player.
Oh, yeah.
His version of Angel.
Oh.
Fly on Home, Sweet Angel.
Beautiful song.
His version is fantastic.
Wow.
So Hendrix really inspired the generation that came after him.
Oh, I think so, too.
Yeah.
He's such imaginative and unique player. You know, I mean, he had both. He played in a very unique way, but his imagination was going places that most other musical minds weren't going at that time.
Yeah,
it was. Yeah,
he was making more with less.
Yeah,
yeah. He had a terrible childhood.
Mm-hmm.
His stepfather, and somewhere in the mix, a stepfather was trying to get his mother to be a whore.
Yeah,
all kinds of. Can you imagine?
Yeah, I think he finally, when he could, I think he bought his mom a house.
Yes.
Yeah, and he was.
But he was like so many of us. He was an active alcoholic and drug addict, and that's what got him.
Yeah. Well, I mean, who knows what would have come out of him sans that, I mean, you can blame his death on it, but do you also
go and listen to Steve Vai? He might have gone in that direction.
That's true too.
Yeah. Very easily could have gone in the direction of Steve Vai and Joe Satriani. We'll never know.
No, that's true. That's true.
Yeah, but he was also a great writer of pop songs.
Mm-hmm.
He was influenced by Dylan, but he didn't copy Dylan. And some of his songs are fantastic. And some of them, the changes are really tricky.
Yeah.
Really tricky.
Yeah, just learn Little Wing.
Yeah, I mean,
Little Wing is a great piece.
Some of the stuff, I think some of his best stuff came out posthumously.
That's also true.
Yeah, and I'm listening to him. Oh my God, this is really good, and he's gone.
Yeah.
Well, he's gone, but not forgotten, and
not at all.
In the greater scheme of things, no one can escape the four sufferings of birth, old age, sickness, and death. It's just that his sickness and death came early.
Yeah.
Right.
But he made his mark. He made his mark in much in the same way that Charlie Parker made his mark.
Right. Mm-hmm. Right. I mean, a lot of people that shone that bright burned out early.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
America was an incredible place, even though they were in the middle of a big depression during the time Charlie Parker was coming up in Kansas City.
Mm-hmm.
And we didn't have cell phones. We didn't have too much. I don't think we had very much television at all. The only thing that Charlie Parker saw were the movies.
Mm-hmm.
The 5-cent movies on Saturday morning in Kansas City with his girlfriend.
Wow.
So the things that he wanted as a boy were 6 guns and a cowboy hat. He grew up not even conscious of his race until it was, too late.
Mm.
It's really, and then he started using heroin. I mean, the whole thing. Do you know who Stanley Crouch is?
What?
The writer?
No.
I
Author?
Yeah, I bought his first. He wrote a thing on Bird in 2 parts. I bought part 1 a couple of years ago and read it. It was incredible.
Wow.
And it's important that we remember some of the great instances of interaction between our culture, movies, authors, activities that would take. I mean, in the 30s in the Midwest, when it got too hot, you went to the mountains. Charlie Parker went to the mountains. He got gigs in the mountains. In Missouri, near where Branson is now.
Mm-hmm.
And the cats were gigging all the time. There was a lot of work. And they practiced a lot. And the reason that so many of those bands were so good is because they practiced.
Right. And there was work because there were less artists.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because only people that could actually play and write and perform real music,
cream of the crop,
were out working. Now it's anybody with a that can do time alignment and what's the voice thing?
Auto-tune.
Auto-tune, yeah. There's a pop hit, right? One after another. But
listen, you guys, I'm not totally recovered from my illness, and I've just run out of energy.
Okay.
Oh, yes.
So we've gone an hour.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
If we could wrap it up relatively soon, I'm really itching to take my family to Gene and Giorgetti's.
Absolutely.
Oh, nice. I wanted to ask you about gear and everything, but maybe we'll save that for another time.
Just send me an email, man. I'll give you any information you want. I don't have anything to do here except hang with my brother and my sister-in-law.
Nice.
Awesome.
Nice. Very
well,
good.
We'll do that, and then we can wrap that up on the beginning of next show or something.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we'll get some more
anything that you want from me. If you can't reach me directly, just call John.
Okay.
Cool.
Yep. John.
Very cool.
John, I can get a hold of John. Yes.
John is one of the best things that's happened to music and humanity in a long time. He's a real good guy. He's a straight shooter. He does this because he loves the music.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
That's awesome. Mick's been in touch with him quite a bit.
He did great work with Johnny Winter, who I really love.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because we had Paul Nelson on.
Right.
Yep.
I mean, nobody could play slide guitar like Johnny.
Yeah. That was...
Last time I heard him play, it was a big Hendrix bash at B.B. King's in New York, and I just was like, my jaw was dropping.
Awesome.
Played exactly the same solo every tune, and I never got tired of it.
That's when you know it's good, when you want to hear it again and again.
Solo 100 times, and I'll never get tired of it.
Beautiful.
That is awesome. Well, Larry, thank you so much for taking the time that you could spend with us,
yes,
and we wish you a very speedy, very speedy recovery. Yes, I am.
And where's Mick?
I'm right here.
There's Mick.
All right, next time we do this, man, let's do it with some video so I can see you guys.
Yeah,
we could do that. It sounds like it's been a really good connection, so we could probably stay on.
No, let's not push our luck.
Exactly.
That's true. Well,
this
Larry,
is one of the best interviews I've done in a long time, and I can thank you and John Lappin and his wisdom.
Oh, thank you, man.
Well, thank you very much, Larry. It's been our pleasure, man.
Yeah,
it really has been our pleasure. And speedy recovery, and we look forward to you getting back out there and making music. And I got to check out the operas, man. You really got me itching to check this stuff out now.
There's no way for you to hear it yet.
Not even War and Peace.
No way, because it's all on Bluetooth, Blu-ray.
Oh,
okay.
And I'm out of copies.
Wow. Well, I hope it did that well for you.
You know what? Good. Let me think of something, a way for you to hear. Maybe I'll just send you the Blu-ray. Do you have a Blu-ray player?
I do
Absolutely.
Not. You do?
Yeah.
Do you? Okay.
I'm the technology guy.
That's right.
Let's just email each other and work it out, and we'll get it to you because I want you to hear it.
Awesome. I'd love to, man. I would love to. Thank you so much.
Yeah, that'd be great.
My great pleasure.
All right, Larry, go have a great steak, man.
Yes, sir.
Just go have
nice
a great
and
steak.
rare.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Medium rare, my favorite.
All right.
All right. Thank you so much, Larry. Have a great rest of the evening.
Thank you. You too.
Thanks. Well, there you have the story. At least most of it. We got to get more.
Yeah, man.
We got to get more. And,
that's a lot of years.
It is.
And he's got that thing. He wants to, he needs to release that, and you can hear it that he's got.
He's very enthusiastic and animate about, about the past and about the future and, what's happening and what should be happening.
Sound and silence, baby.
That's great.
I love that.
Ah, that's perfect.
That's
so profound.
And speaking of how we were talking at the beginning of the show, there's a guy, practice. They got their chops. But they continue. He's going back and looking at old material that he wrote years ago and going through it. Yeah. And had this time, because he had some, it was serious downtime.
Yeah.
And, he had, I guess he kind of, I don't know what do you want to call it. I know there's a word for it. And of course it escapes me right at this moment. He pondered. He looked back a little bit and took a look and kind of reset, Yeah.
And
then sometimes we need to do that as humans. And, that may be something that our listeners can do and kind of go, oh, maybe I'll go this way instead of, because we kind of get into that pattern, and we're doing that train just kind of goes down the tracks. Sometimes it's kind of good to go the other way.
And we also get into the more is better kind of mindset, and that pertains to a lot of different things.
YouTube has done that to us. Faster, bigger, better. That's always one of those things that happen. Music doesn't fall under that category per se.
I mean, it's fun to explore, but just because there's more and faster doesn't mean that it's better. Right.
That's right.
It's just different, and I think long term you figure out which you prefer and long term you figure out which stands the test of time. You do.
Yeah.
It's
sort of like this, and he kind of said it without saying it. When you have the experience, you can kick Led Zeppelin's ass.
That was great.
You see, that's how it all comes down. That whole thing of the hot shots that are up there and they're doing their thing, these old guys come in and...
Let me show you how it's done.
Yeah, and they weren't probably even trying. That was just their gig.
No, I'm sure that they were
doing their
professionally playing as well as they knew how to play, because that's what you should do every gig.
Exactly.
Right.
And we're not saying anything about the younger crowd. You guys have got to do it, but remember the reps are where it comes.
Mm-hmm.
That's where, you can't, there's something about that too, man. You do those reps and I don't care, you could be the next prodigy on the planet. It has something to do with those reps, man.
But the other thing that comes from that is you do those often enough and you keep learning and you keep playing. And then there's going to be this moment where somebody just points the finger at you and says, go.
And you got it.
And you're pulling from everything that you've done. I mean, this is strictly on an improvised basis, not a rehearsed kind of, formulaic thing.
Yeah.
You're going to pull stuff from everything that you've always done, and you're going to do something you've never done before, and that only comes from learning and doing everything else before that, and it's really fun when it happens, man. You get to the other end of that, and it's like, sometimes you don't even remember what you did,
and that's good.
That's great.
Because that means you were doing it right.
Your mind was somewhere else. It was on a different plane for a minute,
Yep.
And that's pretty cool. But that just doesn't happen. You got to pull. You're pulling from experience, whether you know it or not. You're pulling from everything you've learned before that.
Absolutely.
So sometimes you can practice and do everything right, but once in a while, all that practice pays off in a completely different way. So
can't say it any better, man.
No, but
there you go.
There you go.
So until next time, my friend.
That's right, because we got to have at least one more. Larry wants to do it again.
There you go.
And we will have other people too.
I'm Mick Marcelino.
That's right.
And you're?
The other guy talking. Who's that? Is that Jeff? Yeah, that's Jeff. I'm Jeff Bober.
And we're always saying,
onward.
Be sure and follow the show on Twitter @AmpsandAxes. Also, make sure you like the show on Facebook. For news, comments, and everything else, visit the webpage, ampsandaccesscast.com. Thanks for listening.